Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Before we start, two things I want to know. Number one, do you like this black background or do you like my regular background that I usually have in my videos? Leave me a comment and let me know. Number two, what is your favorite eyeshadow palette ever? Let me know. Today's video is 5 eyeshadow tips. This is not a tutorial. I have plenty of eyeshadow tutorials on my channel. This video is pretty beginner friendly. If you feel like, oh, I keep doing my eyeshadow and I keep practicing and I can't get it to turn out like with a professional result, I'm gonna hopefully fill in some gaps for you with these tips. Also, if you want a really in-depth video about how to apply your eyeshadow, which brushes you need, how to use them, how to use creams versus powder eyeshadows, some of my favorite eyeshadow products, I have a really in-depth video called my eyeshadow crash course. I will link that down below for you as well. That's a long video. This is going to be a quick video. So, as Wayne Goss would say, let's make a start. Tip number one is you can't go wrong with a metallic or shimmer on the lid and a dark eyeshadow in the outer corner. I am wearing a great example of that today. I have a kind of like medium colored against my skin tone metallic eyeshadow. I'm actually wearing the Tonic Cosmetics Shadow Elixir in Brown Metal. I have a discount code for Tonic. I will link them down below. I'm also wearing their lipstick in Monaco. It's their satin lipstick. I love it, but if you use my code, you get free shipping, so I'll link that down below as well. But basically, I have a metallic shadow on the eyelid, and when I say eyelid, I mean the mobile part, like the part that opens and closes. And then I have a darker eyeshadow, so I used a black because I wanted a dramatic look. I have that on the outer corner, and then on the inner corner, I have a really light shimmery eyeshadow. So that's a really good way to enhance the natural anatomy of your eye, which is what is going to make your eye pop. It's going to give it more dimension. And then using a light shimmer shade on the inner corner will really open the eyes up. Now, if you have mature lids and you feel like metallic eyeshadows or shimmer shadows kind of emphasize fine lines and stuff on the lid, you don't have to do that. Do I agree with that? Kind of. I think you can use like a sparkle shadow, like the Bobbi Brown sparkle shadows are really nice for mature lids if you want to get that sparkly finish. Do something more like medium or a little bit lighter on the eyelid and still something a little bit darker on the outer portion. And you can do like a light shimmer on the inner corner, regardless of what your age is. I think anybody can really do that as long as you don't overdo it. Step number 2 is to use a base. Now, a lot of people swear by eye primers. A lot of people don't use eye primers and just use their concealer. This can vary on your skin type and like the type of concealer that you use. Usually for me and on my clients, I find that primers last a little bit longer than concealers. They're just going to grab onto the product a little bit better. Whereas like, you know, for dry skin, you might have better luck with a concealer than somebody with oily skin because concealers tend to be a little bit more hydrating than eye primers. So the eye primer is like the safest bet if you want your makeup to last all day. But if you don't want to spend the money on an extra product, you can certainly just use your concealer. Usually when I use my concealer on my lids, I just use a tiny bit, like whatever's left on my finger or my brush, and then I go over with a little bit of my face powder because if the concealer is super tacky, same thing with eye primers, sometimes you have to kind of see like what works better with the products that you're using and the way you like to apply eyeshadows. But sometimes if the base is super tacky, you need to set it with a powder because that will take the tackiness away and it will allow the eyeshadows to blend. Whereas if it's tacky, it'll like stick in one area and then it'll create skips and you won't be able to blend it out. So if you're having trouble getting your eyeshadows to blend, try setting your base with a powder or try using a different base. My favorite primer is the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in Eden. They have a darker version of this as well. This is matte, so I feel like I don't need to set it. In my kit, I have Eden and the darker one. And when I refer to my kit, I mean like my makeup that I use like on clients in a professional setting. But this has color to it, so I feel like it cancels out any veins and it brightens my eyelid a little bit. I feel like it's kind of a 2-in-1 and I don't usually feel the need to set it with powder before I go in with my shadows. The name of the darker one is escaping me because I don't use it on myself, so I will have that listed down below. Step number 3 is to use a fluffy blending brush. This is really important if you want your eyeshadow to look professional, and especially if you're using darker colors and you don't want to create like a black eye effect. There are affordable options out there. I have this one by Glamour Dolls. It's the Sperm Whale brush. This one is a little bit firm, so it's a great brush, but it's not the best option for like feathering out color. I know Wet n Wild has one that's really good that my little sister really likes. These are some of the ones I use. I'm sorry, they're a little bit dirty, but this is the Real Techniques Bold Metals 203. This one is synthetic, so if you don't like animal hair, this is a great option. It's pinched, so if you have a smaller eye, this is probably a little bit better because it's a little bit smaller. Even if you have big eyes like me, I have like a lot of eye space, I use this for like more precise crease work. And then this is the Smith 235, again, pinched, so I use it for more precise crease work. I believe this is goat hair, which kind of goes against my ethics, but it is a really good brush. That being said, I do think you can get a really good imitation animal hair. This is my favorite makeup brush ever. Like, I wouldn't be caught dead without this brush, like doing makeup on myself or on a client or a model. This is the Inglot 6SS. It works best for bigger eyes, but even if you have smaller eyes, this is really good for going in like clean without product on it, just to blend stuff out, because it's very soft, but it's a little bit coarse at the same time. So it does really like blend and distribute the color a little bit better than something like the Real Techniques one. And it fans out, but it still has a little bit of a taper. So it just is perfect. I just love it. This, when I first started getting into makeup, changed my eyeshadow game. I just can't even think like what my life would be like without this. Like, would I even have become a makeup artist without this brush? I don't even know. And this I got like within the first few months of me even like becoming serious about makeup. And I haven't found anything that I prefer for this purpose. So anyway, that was a little bit long-winded. I just wanted to give you some options and explain a little bit. But if you're doing your eyeshadow and you feel like it's not coming out like flawless or airbrushed, or it's kind of giving you a black eye effect, and you don't have one of these brushes, it will change everything for you. Tip number 4 is if you're new to color. And by that I mean like brighter colors. So right now I have a pretty neutral eye look. It's a dramatic eye look, but it's neutral. I'm using mostly black and browns. However, I do have a tiny bit of red on the lower lash line over here, just to bring out the color in the lip a little bit and add a little bit of interest. So if you're new to color, I really highly recommend trying it on your lower lash line. I have like black on my lower lash line as well because I wanted to create a smoky eye, but you can just do a bright color all across, whether it be with an eyeliner or an eyeshadow or both. The second thing you can do to incorporate a pop of color in your eye look is to frame the whole eye with neutrals. So, you know, get your blending brush and put a little bit of brown in the crease, a little bit of darker brown or black in the outer corner, and then you can take your pop of color and then using a flat brush or your finger, just put it on the center of the lid. So kind of where I have this brown metal eyeshadow, you could do like a bright metallic green or blue or whatever, or it doesn't even have to be metallic. That way your whole eye isn't colorful and you don't have to think about like, oh, which colors am I gonna pair together? Just do neutrals and then put one pop of color either on the mobile lid or the lower lash line. It's super easy. Tip number 5 is about color combinations. So this is a little bit more of a nuanced topic, and I don't want to say that this is like a hard rule. I'm just offering this tip as a starting point. If you are having trouble kind of matching your eyeshadows, or you're starting out, or you're doing a look and it's just like going wrong in terms of the color combinations, this tip is something that's always gonna work. But it's not what you necessarily have to do. It's just a way to start out thinking about color combinations. The tip is to use eyeshadows with coordinating undertones. Now, if you don't have a background in color theory or art, you might not know the difference between cool and warm. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a visual reference. This is my warm palette full of warm singles that I have generally, and I'm gonna put a color wheel somewhere on the screen here. Colors that are like hot, that kind of resemble the sun or fire or something like that, generally have an orange undertone. So things that lean more orange, yellow, sometimes red are going to be more warm. So that's what you see in this palette here. You see even the browns, you can tell, have like an orangey undertone or a yellowy undertone. And then there are some actual oranges, reds, gold. This is my cool palette. And I do have a couple of blushes in here as well that are more like purpley pinks instead of like peachy pinks. So in this palette, you get lilacs, purples. I mean, this for me is like a purple palette, but you know, blues. So on the color wheel, you can see that the opposite of orange is blue. Blue is a colder color. It resembles like ice and water and things like that. Anything with a blue undertone is a cool color. So let me give you an example of something that really wouldn't work according to this theory or this tip. So let me pull a silvery, purpley, lilac-y shade out of my cool palette. So this would not necessarily pair well with, let's say the darker color we're gonna go with is this warm purple. These don't really pair well together. Let's say you really wanted to use this eyeshadow and you wanted to use a shimmery shadow on the lid. Instead of this silvery lilac shade, I would take this warm champagne shade that has a little bit of yellow and orange to it in a very subtle way. I'm talking about the undertone here and not what the actual color is. So this has a little more yellow than that lilac, obviously, and these would pair really well together. Now, by the same token, let's say I wanted to pair this with a really cool darker color. So, I mean, these might work well together, but overall, these two are not as good of a match as this was with the warm brown. Now, let's say I really want to use this eyeshadow and I really want to pair it with a shimmer shadow. I'm going to put this one away. I'm going to pick up my silvery lilac shadow again. These two go really well together because they both have a cool undertone. If you'd like me to create a separate video on color combinations and just ideas, and maybe even a little bit more about color theory, whatever you're interested in, just let me know in the comments below and I can work on that for you. But for now, I just wanted to give you that tip to give you some direction. Some palettes that are really good at coordinating undertones are the Urban Decay Naked palettes. Other palettes are gonna have like a lot of varying undertones, like this Too Faced palette, for example. This is limited edition. I'm just gonna give it to you as an example. Like this has a lot of varying undertones, so it's a little bit more difficult to work with. Like over here, you have a lot of cool tones, and over here, you have a lot of warm tones. So it's not, the layout is helpful, but in general, it's not as straightforward as something like an Urban Decay Naked palette where the undertones are kind of coordinating. So even if you're new to color theory and eyeshadow, I hope that made sense to you. So that is it for my 5 eyeshadow tips to make your eyeshadows look better and more professionally done. Again, if you'd like a more in-depth video about how to use brushes and how to apply eyeshadows, I will link my eyeshadow crash course down below, and I will link a recent tutorial down below so you can see me in action creating a look as well. I will link some of the products that I showed and mentioned down below too if you're interested in any of that. If this was your first time watching my channel, I am a professional makeup artist and esthetician. I make a lot of videos about makeup and skincare, a lot of tutorials, a lot of reviews. I'd love for you to subscribe and get access to all the information in my head that I'm sharing with you all, and if you have any feedback, please feel free to leave it down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.